There are more questions tonight for the Met about how they police protests against Israel. It comes after a group targeted a restaurant in Notting Hill on Friday night, which is owned by an Israeli celebrity chef. Officers are accused of not doing enough as demonstrators chanted and called for armed resistance. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
The familiar chants of anti-Israel slogans on the streets of London. But these weren't outside a government building or embassy. Instead, the target was a restaurant serving Israeli cuisine in Notting Hill. Police said Friday's event was organised by the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network. But it's pictures of the police apparently not intervening which is causing controversy. Jewish community leaders accuse the demonstrators of intimidating customers.
If they are of such an extreme mindset that they think that is legitimate, then it really is down for the police and the local authorities to find a way to prevent this from happening and prevent it from really affecting daily Jewish life in the way these protests do.
The Erev restaurant is part of an international chain called Miznon. It's owned by Yal Shani, an Israeli celebrity chef. He's also a judge on Israel's version of MasterChef, which meant the demonstration in Notting Hill was headline news. Elat Simchayov, the London correspondent for Israel's Channel 12, was broadcasting from outside the restaurant today.
Groups of people coming here, harassing diners, shouting, screaming, just making their lives miserable just for the decision they made to come and eat in a restaurant in West London, in this beautiful neighborhood of Notting Hill. It's absolutely an harassment. I think the police should be much stricter. They should be more involved in preventing these kinds of things from happening.
In a statement, the Met said the aim of the police operation was to balance the right to protest with the rights of other people to go about their lives without disruption.
Scotland Yard said during the demonstration, a 35-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of chanting in a way that was meant to stir up racial hatred. He's now been released on bail.
Tonight, Joe Powell, the local Labour MP, has written to the Home Secretary asking what steps the police will take to protect Jewish businesses from intimidation. Simon Harris, ITV News, Notting Hill.
Good evening. It's expected the government will finally give the go-ahead to China's new super embassy next week. But new unredacted documents appear to show plans for a secret chamber beneath the site. The location on the former Royal Mint is controversial because it's close to cables carrying sensitive financial data. It's thought the underground room would be right alongside those lines. It all puts more pressure on the government, with critics arguing the embassy could be used for espionage and intimidation. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Is the government about to allow a digital Trojan horse into the financial heart of London? Critics of the proposed Chinese embassy say they fear a hostile state may get access to sensitive financial data and potentially millions of our emails.
I'm standing directly over the cabling that connects the City of London to Canary Wharf, 1 metre from the perimeter of what will be the new Chinese embassy, accessible underground by the Chinese were they to be allowed to go ahead and develop this site.
Campaigners like Luke de Pulford are horrified at the latest leaked plans which reveal how China will transform the former Royal Mint by Tower Bridge.
What's significant about these new reports is that they show that one of those rooms is right next to us, underneath our feet here, within a metre of the sensitive cabling infrastructure. That's extremely concerning.
When China submitted its formal planning application, part of it was redacted, giving rise to suspicion that the embassy would include secret underground rooms. The emergence of unredacted plans today has done nothing to lessen that suspicion. And there was palpable frustration among MPs on all sides as they tried to get answers.
208 secret rooms and a hidden chamber just 1 metre from cables serving the City of London and the British people. That is what the unredacted plans tell us that the Chinese Communist Party has planned for its new embassy if the government gives them the go-ahead.
My constituency, Stratford and Bow, is home to one of the largest Hong Konger populations in our country. They tell me how scared this proposed Chinese mega embassy is.
This is in an area with one of the largest Muslim populations in the country, and we're all aware of the persecution of Uyghur Muslims.
But the housing minister was giving nothing away.
No decision has been made. I cannot comment on any aspects of the case. It's a live case for planning ministers to determine. All material considerations will be taken into account when making a decision, but I'm afraid I can't comment on any specific national security concerns.
Mark Nygate represents tenants whose flats adjoin the embassy site and are now owned by China. They're preparing for battle if the government says yes to the embassy.
We're going to go for a judicial review. We're going to challenge that decision. We've already got a couple of pieces of legal opinion which works in our favour, and we'll be using that as a basis to start the challenge.
Last February, a planning inspector considered China's application at a public inquiry, but the government will make the final decision. It's expected to be announced in the next 7 days, just before the Prime Minister's trip to China.
Simon, what factors is the government trying to balance here?
It's clearly very tricky for the government trying to juggle what is essentially a local planning application with national security and its ambitions for international trade. Now, on security, one argument being made is that China currently has around half a dozen official sites in London alongside the main embassy in Portland Place. So bringing together all the diplomats on one site could make it easier for the security services to keep tabs on them. Now, there are compelling arguments why the government doesn't want an openly hostile relationship with China, despite the threats over trade, especially ahead of that visit to Beijing by the Prime Minister. But make no mistake, a lot of MPs from all parties are very concerned, with one Conservative MP today saying that the embassy would be a launchpad for economic warfare against the UK.
OK, Simon, thank you. Police have released dramatic footage of the moment they raided the home of a man suspected of causing more than £250,000 worth of graffiti damage on the Tube. He got an unexpected wake-up call when officers came knocking at his door. Simon Harris is outside Goodge Street Station this evening. Simon, tell us what happened.
Yasmin, the arrest of a suspected train vandal wouldn't normally make headline news, but in this case the police are describing it as a significant moment in efforts to crack down on graffiti. This is what happened when British Transport Police officers forced their way into a house in Barnet. A 48-year-old man was arrested as part of an investigation into 245 cases of criminal damage on the Northern Line, where the cost of the damage is put at £257,000. The suspect was questioned and later released on bail.
And Simon, looking at this from a wider perspective, how big a problem is graffiti on our transport network in general?
Well, it's a very big, expensive problem on the Underground. The Transport Commissioner, Andy Lord, recently said it cost £11 million a year. Part of that is investigating it, the crimes, and part of that is cleaning up. Now, normally when a train is attacked with a spray can, it's taken out of service so it can be cleaned. But there's been a particular problem on the Bakerloo and Central lines in recent months, and those are very old trains and frequently break down, so there are fewer of them. That means that when a train is attacked, there isn't always a spare one to replace it. So trains covered in graffiti continue to be used to carry passengers.
Simon, thanks very much. The Mayor, Sadiq Khan, has been challenged by opponents at City Hall after making claims early this week that the capital is safer after a drop in the number of violent crimes. Our political correspondent Simon Harris is looking at that and more in our late debate show tonight.
Earlier this week, London's police chief and mayor proudly announced that the number of violent deaths in London had gone down. They were eager to make the case that the capital is safer and not the hotbed of crime portrayed by some critics. But at City Hall today, those statistics were challenged when the mayor faced questions from the London Assembly.
The most startling statistic from the stuff we published this week wasn't the fact we've got the lowest homicide rate since records began in London on a per capita basis, but there are 44% fewer young people going to A&Es with a knife injury.
Every single year of your mayoralty, more people in London were threatened with a knife, robbed at knife point for their valuables, than the last year of Boris Johnson. The figures have got worse. Every single year of your mayoralty is worse than what you inherited. How can you tell Londoners that it's getting better?
On the late debate, we'll discuss those crime figures with London MPs David Pinto-Dushinsky, Chris Philp and Munira Wilson. Plus, do Londoners want more 20-mile-an-hour speed limits? They're coming anyway. And should China get its controversial new mega embassy at Tower Bridge? We're on later than usual tonight after Love Island.
Next, while traffic in London rarely moves quickly, new limits will force more drivers to stick to a maximum 20 miles per hour. Over half the capital's roads already have the limit, but Transport for London has confirmed more are on the way. The changes are divisive, with some arguing going 20 helps save lives, but others say there are better ways to improve safety. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
In this business, the quicker you drive and get from A to B, the more money you can earn.
Simon has been an Uber driver for 6 years, but he's thinking of moving on. The growing number of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in London has hit his income.
Driving at 20 mile an hour is just ridiculous. I get tourists who complain and say, why are we driving so slow? 3 in the morning, why am I driving 20 miles an hour? Everybody who's vulnerable would not be on the street 3 in the morning.
More than half of London's roads are 20-mile-an-hour zones, including dual carriageways like Finchley Road, which used to be 40, and Park Lane. Last year, 110 people were killed on London's roads, more than 3,500 injured.
Many of those are on main roads, so TfL has introduced a safer speed limits on many of its roads. And where that has happened, we've seen a 25% fall in the number of collisions, saving lives across the capital, including there on Park Lane.
But there are other statistics.
According to the most recent figures from the Met, in the space of 12 months, more than 220,000 speeding fines were issued to drivers in 30-mile-an-hour zones.
In 2009, Islington was the first council in the country to impose a blanket 20-mile-an-hour limit on all of its roads. It was just the start.
There's 21 out of the 33 London boroughs now have a default 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. But there's about 12 left to go, and they're more in the outer boroughs.
Bromley in south-east London is one of them, and the Conservative council here is in no rush to lower the limit.
There is zero appetite amongst my administration for blanket 20-mile-an-hour coverage. We believe that through education and through suitable signage, we're getting the job done, and we're actually getting the job done more effectively than many boroughs with 20-mile-an-hour permanent signage, and the accident stats provided by the DFT support that belief.
Where you increase the speed limit, all you end up doing is getting to the next set of traffic lights or the next junction slightly earlier.
But that's not the main argument for lower limits. City Hall says where 20 mph has been introduced, the number of people killed or seriously injured has fallen by a third. Simon Harris, ITV News, Park Lane.